Thank you all for being here with us today. It's a pleasure to officially start the second International Conference on Policy Diffusion and Development Cooperation with this first webinar. It's of course not what we expected and the way we expected, but it's great that we are now safe and at home, sharing knowledge about the topic that we would like the most. Before beginning my talk, I would like to thank all the conveners, the scientific committee, and panel organizers for supporting me in all the challenging decisions I had to make for the conferences in the circumstances of the pandemic. I would also like to thank the institutions that are involved in the conference, the support of the College of Public Policy of the Hamad bin Khalifa University, the São Paulo Research Foundation, and the partnership of the Brazilian Center of Analysis and Planning and the Laboratory of International Public Policies. I would also like to thank all the participants of the conference and friends and colleagues that are watching us now. My presentation will be brief. I will first present the background of the conference and the dynamics of the online format. Then I will share a few thoughts about what I would like the space to become considering the different unfolding of the pandemic. Finally, I will present our speakers and discussants and the dynamics of this webinar. But before introducing the background of the conference, I just wanted to make a test with you with Slido. So Slido is the app we are using for questions. It's very easy and simple. You need to go to the Slido website and type the event code 73631. The event code and the Slido website are below here in the description of the webinar in YouTube. So please go there and inform us from which part of the world you are coming from. First, I would like to start with a little background of this event. This conference started as a seminar back in 2016 when I organized a COSI workshop at the Brazilian Center of Analysis and Planning. We were a few participants, around 30 or maybe 50, that have been working for 3 days on the topic of policy diffusion. The idea was to have an international meeting, but especially to bring the discussion of policy diffusion in Brazil, where it was still very incipient. The workshop was great, and I thought it would be interesting to continue this network and organize something more structured. In 2018, the International Conference on Policy Diffusion and Development Cooperation was born. It was bigger than expected. We had more than 250 registered participants and 4 days of event. It was a blast. We were able to create a digital platform, which is policydiffusion.com, where you can find lots of material about the topic. And we built a network of more than 500 people all over the world interested on this topic. The conference was very important to show the scholarship on policy diffusion, the relevance to include the dimension of development cooperation in the analysis, and especially to show the empirical richness of Global South for policy transfer and diffusion research. After the impact of the second event, we thought that it was interesting to have a third one in 2020. Again, we received lots of proposals, finally accepting 99 papers and 6 posters, which are organized in 16 panels and 26 sessions. Our conference was scheduled to occur in the end of May, but in March, due to the pandemic, we had to change our plans. It was not an easy decision because everything was prepared and I had more than 1 year of work behind me on this event. So first, we decided to reschedule the event, possibly to 2021. But Brazil at that time had only 60 cases of coronavirus. And later on, 2 months after, when Brazil came with the United States, the world's epicenter of coronavirus, we understood that it was not possible to prepare or organize anything in such conditions. So in order to keep our mission of knowledge production and exchange about policy diffusion and development cooperation and avoid losing all the work done, we decided to move the conference online. It was against a hard and challenging decision. And I have to thank all my colleagues that supported me and advised me in the past months, especially Leslie Paul and Chris Walker, and also other colleagues involved in the conference. So how is the new online design of the conference going to work? Considering time zone difference and digital fatigue, we designed an event that is based on a long term. It is starting now with this webinar, and we will have 3 more webinars one every 2 months. The next webinar is going to be on the 2nd of September. It's going to be about Latin America and policy diffusion, and it will have Cecilia Osorio and myself as speakers, as well as Jessica Benza from Peru and Raul Pacheco Vega from Mexico that will be moderating and discussing this panel. The event is already on YouTube, so you can activate your reminder in our channel to keep following and include this on your agenda. The next step is between January and March of 2021, we will have 26 panel sessions. And finally, in the end of March, we will have all the plenaries that will conclude the conference. As we have more time to work now, we encourage all panel organizers to prepare publications with the papers presented in the panels. All the details of the new online design is on our website, policydiffusion.com. As the conference is moving online, a lot will be happening in this YouTube channel. So I will kindly ask you to subscribe and like it. This will be very important for you to receive all the updates of the conference, and will also help us to increase our reach with the material produced in the conference. You can also leave your email in our website and receive our newsletter. All the material that is here in this YouTube channel is free, and you can watch more than 40 videos that we made in the past conferences with the most prominent experts in the area, such as Diane Stone, David Dolowitz, Magdalena Hadziski, and others. So I'm also concluding now, and you don't need to worry, I'm concluding. I would like to say something important before finishing, which is something that came into my mind with all this pandemic situation. In the beginning, when the pandemic started and we started closing our institutions and started working home and we had to postpone the conference, I thought I was very worried. And of course, I was very worried about everything that was happening in the world. But later on, after thinking carefully, I also understood that this situation offered an unprecedented opportunity for us to think more about our roles as researchers and how our research could help us to go through everything that is happening now. And for this reason, I would like to use the space of the conference for the next 9 months as well for a collective reflection. That is to build with you a collective reflection thinking about 2 main questions. The first question is, how can policy transfer research help understanding the circumstances we are living today? As a matter of fact, we are witnessing an intense movement on the circulation of ideas, knowledge, and solutions to fight against COVID-19. Just to mention a few, we can take the example of the World Health Organization guidelines for social distancing, hygiene, traveling, working, and so on, that are being adopted and especially translated in so many different ways by most countries. A second example is the case of education. We have now more than 1 billion students that have been affected by school and university closures. I imagine that many of you have been either teaching or learning online. So there are different models circulating across countries about how to do remote learning, and especially about how to reopen education institutions during the pandemic. Third, something that a few years ago seemed a utopia is now happening. And I'm talking about basic income. The pandemic brought up the discussion about this, and most countries are doing some form of transferring cash to citizens to mitigate effects of the pandemic. And I'm not going to extend myself longer with these elements and these questions because I would like to leave this floor to Leslie Paulo, who's going to present a very interesting and stimulating reflection about how policy diffusion can be paradoxical in the context of a global pandemic. I would like to move to my second question. So the second question is, how can policy transfer research help COVID-19 responses? And this is a more normative question, which is related to our impact on public policy making. We know that public policies based on scientific evidences can be more effective. So today, around 500,000 lives were taken due to coronavirus, 60,000 only in Brazil. But COVID impact on our lives goes far beyond. It's also about food security, poverty, economy, education, and so on. It is vital for us to think about how can we help public policy makers to prevent and mitigate such situations. So I would like to use the conference space to think about on how can we translate research findings into practical advices. Olivier is addressing this question in a certain way in presenting in his presentation by defending proposals for the global health governance and then reform of World Health Organization. Now, before leaving the floor to my colleagues, I would like to inform again the dynamics of the webinar and introduce them. So Leslie Paulo is going to talk first. He is the founding dean of the College of Public Policy at the Hamad bin Khalifa University and one of the conveners of the conference. Olivier is our second speaker. He's professor of the University of Sorbonne, Paris 1 in France. And Cecilia Osorio is professor at the University Alberto Hurtado, and she will be discussing our presentations directly from Chile. Presentations will take from 15 to 20 minutes, and then discussion about 10 minutes. You can ask questions via Slido. Again, the event code is 73631, and the link and information for you to ask questions via Slido are here below in the description in YouTube. You can ask questions by informing the speakers you want to address your question to. And now, with no further delay, I would like to invite Professor Leslie Paulo to talk, and I declare the second International Conference on Policy Diffusion and Development Cooperation officially open. So, thank you very much.